children. It's Pastor Matthew here for our children's praise lesson. We are looking at question 71 now on the catechism question dealing with the seventh commandment, which is to not commit adultery. So now we're going to look at it again. In question 71, it asks us this: what does the seventh commandment require? The seventh commandment requires us and everyone else to keep sexually pure in heart, speech, and action. So, as we've seen with these commandments, there's always the main commandment, and then that commandment means you're supposed to do something and you're supposed to not do something. And so what we're supposed to do is be sexually pure. Now, that is a thing for adults to know about, particularly what that means. But we know that essentially what adultery is not keeping our promises. So I want you to see this picture again. This is what a marriage is. It's one man and one woman becoming one. But in this picture is a little different than the one we saw before, because what do you see in the background? Do you see a church? Right? Because that church is there, that's a part of the picture it symbolizes, shows us that this promise is not just like any promise. It's a promise that we make before God. So that is the big fancy word we learned, a covenant. And when people speak really important words, we also have another word for that. We call those vows. So now you're learning all sorts of things. You have a covenant, which is a really important promise that we make in the presence of God, and also a vow, which are the very words we speak in the presence of God when we say, I'm going to do something, or I'm not going to do something. Those are called vows if we say them in the presence of God with His name. So that's what makes marriage so special. Now, you know what a pinky promise is. Pinky promise, we saw a picture of that last time. It's when two little pinky fingers hold together and say, I promise that I'm going to do this. And you know what? I haven't done a pinky promise in a long time. Kids do pinky promises. And that's fun because as a child, you can make promises and you don't always have to understand really what you're saying because it's a pinky promise. But see, adults, they do a different type of promise with their fingers. And that's what this promise is. You see the ring on my finger? Well, look at this picture. Look at this man putting this really pretty ring on this woman's hand. It's the same thing, but even bigger. These are really big promises. So they're not pinky promises. They're ring finger promises that come with marriage, which means that in the presence of God, that God who knows your thoughts and my thoughts and our heart, we're saying we're going to be sexually pure. And that's what makes it really special, is because it deals with God knowing our hearts. So let's learn about this in the Bible. In Matthew 15, Jesus says something really, really important. In verse 11, he said, it is not what goes into the mouth that defiles a person, but what comes out of the mouth that defiles a person. You see? It's what comes out of our heart and the things that we desire that make us defiled or dirty. Right? So the whole point of the promise is that we don't have these bad things or bad desires come out of our heart and make us dirty. That's what breaking the seventh commandment looks like. But also keeping it means holding on to the promises that grown-ups make in marriage.